Your relationship with money matters. I'm Michelle Perkins, and this is the Money and You podcast, where I will be breaking down your relationship with money, offering tough love money tips, and a money dating plan that will focus on lifting the barriers to success to help pave the way for better money practices and increased wealth. It's time to take control to live a limit-free life. It starts today. Hello, and welcome to the Money and You show. I'm Michelle Perkins, and I'm so happy to have you here today. I have a great show. I have a great show with somebody who really understands money and business, and I cannot wait for her to share some of her insights because you're going to learn so much today. I'm going to learn today too, so I'm super excited about this. And I'm going to just jump in and bring in Debi Corrie. Debi is the owner and CEO of Acumaxum, a strategic CFO company dedicated to helping business owners with a higher level strategy to grow their businesses, increase cash, maximize profits, and scale their businesses. Debi is a dedicated and thoughtful business strategist. She owns multiple businesses and is dedicated to helping all business owners achieve financial success by creating a financial roadmap to break through their ceiling. Debi received her Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration with a major in accounting from the University of Missouri, St. Louis, while working full-time. She is a CPA, CGMA, and a member of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, the National Association of Tax Professionals. She's been a #1 international best-selling author of Loving Failure, Getting Control of Your Business Health. She's been featured on CBS News, NBC, Fox, Boston Herald, MarketWatch, Star Tribune, and today we're so excited because she's joining us on the Money and You show. Debi has been here before with me when it was the Limit Free Life show. And so you can check out her podcast, her earlier one, and she left us with the best money tip, I thought, of the whole year, which was raise your prices. So it's a new year in 2022, and if you are a business owner or if you're a professional who needs a salary increase, think about how you, in this year, can go about raising your prices. That was her tip from last time. Can't wait to hear more. She's got a lot of new things going on. So Debi, welcome.
Hi, Michelle. It's great to be here. I'm so excited to be invited to come back.
Oh my goodness, I'm so happy that you are back. And so, for people who haven't heard you before, I would love if you just give us a little background on how you came to be in this position where you're helping business owners and working in all areas of finance with them, really.
It's really, this whole thing started in honor of my grandpa. He was a small business owner. He served in World War II in the Navy. He was a cook. And he got out and he did what a lot of young men did. He apprenticed to be a plumber. And so he did that for a while and realized he could make money if he started his own business. So he had a couple guys working for him, and he got to be 62 and he wanted to retire. And we were so excited for him. So when he went to retire, he had a cottage on the lake. He owned his shop. He owned his home. We thought he was really well off. Well, what we didn't know is my grandfather's retirement plan was, I'm going to die at 65. And so for young people out in the audience, when Depression era men retired, they died a couple years later. And my grandfather, what we didn't know was he didn't file tax returns. And if he did file tax returns, he filed them at a loss. Well, why is that important? Well, my grandfather thought he was going to live on Social Security checks. And guess how much your Social Security is going to be if you're not reporting any income or if you're reporting losses? Not a lot. Minimum amounts. Mm-hmm. So by the time my grandfather died at 82, he had lost everything he'd worked for his entire life. And nobody should end up the way that my grandfather did. And so that's what we do, why we do what we do. So we help businesses with what we call accounting back office, not bookkeeping. And the reason we call it that is you get a set of financial statements every month so you know how your business is doing. And you can't know how your business is doing unless you get statements. Yeah. And then the other thing we do is tax planning for businesses and taxes. And then we do what's called CFO services. And for people that haven't heard those initials before, what that means is we help businesses build business financial roadmaps to get from where they are today to where they want to be in 5 years. And we help them implement them financially with numbers.
That is fabulous. And you said something that I found, my brain just went straight to it, which was you need to look at your numbers. And I
Yes.
know it's hard. It sounds crazy because it's kind of an obvious thing, but I know a lot of business owners who do not look at their numbers until the end of the year when they have to do their taxes. And I would say that's one of the biggest mistakes. And I get it because business owners are busy and they're working and they're trying to move their business forward. And when the revenue feels like it's coming in okay, a lot of them just kind of they assume that that means everything's working the way it
Or
is.
they look at their bank balance and just think that tells them how the business is doing, right?
That's right. I can pay my payroll. I can pay my bills. I should be fine. So yeah, I just really want to stop for a minute and see how do you get people. I mean, I'm assuming the people who engage you have made that decision in their minds. That
Right. You have to make a conscious decision, right? So, and a lot of times, when we get new clients, they're like this. They don't want to see what it says. They're like, I don't know, Debbie, am I going to be okay? And we're like, and it's okay to be like that, but you have to start somewhere. So you may be getting good news from us, you may be not so good news, but at least you know where you are and what you've got to do to make a difference in your business. And that's what we help people figure out. But those monthly statements every month, that allows you to make business decisions about, what are you going to do with your sales? Are you going to give your employees increases this month? Are you going to give yourself a paycheck and more take home pay? That's a big mistake I see business owners make. They don't pay themselves.
Yeah. And that's the easiest place to go when you're short on cash is not cashing your own paycheck, basically.
I say make the sales to make your paycheck every month. That should be your
Yeah.
motivation.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think it's just fascinating. And I love what you were saying about not wanting, people not wanting to see their numbers, because that's a lot of what I think my work is with people's relationship with money is getting them to take on that relationship. And sometimes relationships, it's hard to have honest, conversations to really know the truth about what's going on, just like with another person, but you have to do that to move it forward and to make it into what you want. So yeah, really, really important. What are some of the things that you're finding when people come to you that are problems for them, that are challenges?
I think, business owners, a lot of times, they want to do their own books, which, unless you're a CPA or an accountant, it's just really not a good idea. It's really good to have an outside party come in and look at that, because a lot of times the business owner is the rainmaker, right? They're the one out doing the sales and doing the things that need to get the business going, or they're the visionary. And, we just had a client on Friday call me and they're like, oh my gosh, my taxes are due and my books are a mess. Can you help me, please? Can you show me how to do it? And I said, I will help you, but I'm not going to show you how to do it. And they're like, what? I
Yeah.
said, our job is to help you so you can go make more sales. Will you agree with that deal? And they're like, okay, I'm in. So, think about that when you're spending that money. That's time that you can use to go do the things in your business that make you money.
Yeah, so important. So important to not fill your time with those things that are not making you money, but kind of easy to do. Kind of easy to
Right.
fall into that.
As a business owner, you have to understand your numbers. That doesn't mean you have to do your numbers. And that's what we help people understand for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of the components. So, you're looking at everything. Um,
Right.
One of the things that we talked about earlier was the profitability and the cash flow aspects of, the numbers. So, do you want to just speak to that a little bit? What you see, how you help?
Yeah. So, you know, tons of business owners look at their profit and loss statement, which is awesome. But the statement they forget about is their balance sheet. And for you out there that has said a balance sheet, I've never had a balance sheet in my business. Well, that's really important. It's the second piece of the pie, because the balance sheet shows you what invoicing you haven't collected from your clients. It shows what bills do you owe. It shows your credit card statements. It shows any loans that you have outstanding. It shows the investments you put in your business. So those things are really important and key components to make sure that your profit and loss statement's right. So if you don't have both reports, you're probably not looking at the right numbers. And we've come across businesses that, have great profits, but their cash flow's poor because they have these big loans that they have to pay. And sometimes we can help them go back and refinance. So you've got to look at both pieces of the pie to understand where your cash is going to come from in the future and what are the liabilities you own as a company.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. That's great information. And the balance sheet is kind of the neglected statement, and sometimes it's not even regularly updated. So
Right. We call it the black hole. For a lot of business owners, it's a black hole, right? They don't understand it. They don't know what it means, and we walk them through the components and what they should look out for.
yeah, that's great. That's great because the net worth is really an important uh, key number to look at as well.
Yeah. So net worth is what your assets minus your liabilities, and you want that to be a positive number. So if that's a negative number, that probably means you've been investing a lot of your own cash or somebody else's cash in the business to keep it going. If it's a positive number, that means you have most likely have positive cash flow in the business, and
Mhm.
that's important.
Yeah, yeah, it is super important. And so when people come to you and they are sort of consistently in a cash crunch, what, well, first of all, is that something that you see often? And if it is, how do you help them start to take steps to rectify
Yeah, I mean, we a lot of times business owners will come to us because there's a problem, right? So when things are good, right, we're all like that, right? We don't want to come see anybody, but maybe you're going through growing pains, and all of a sudden, a business that always had a lot of cash doesn't have cash. You've been investing in employees and other things. So the first thing people want to do is cut expenses, and what we want to do is we want to look at the whole picture. So is your pricing right? Are you going after the right types of sales? Yes, we should control costs and make sure that costs are controlled in the business. But the easiest way to make more money is to increase sales if your price is right.
it?
So if you have a bad price and you keep doing more sales at the bad price, you're just going to keep digging a bigger hole.
Right.
So a lot of times when we onboard clients, we do what's called a price check, and we make sure that your price makes sense for your business.
Mm, interesting. Really interesting. That's different. What I hear mostly is, well, I price things according to how my competitors price things. How do you
Nope.
suggest? Yeah. I figured that'd be a no, but
Nope. You have to show value. So if you're doing commodities like a retail store or something like that, you have to show value. And people will say, well, I can't do that. Look at Starbucks and McDonald's. Do they both have a client base? Yes. Starbucks, I pay $3 and whatever cents a cup all day long because I love the atmosphere in Starbucks. I love what the brand represents. I love what they do. But, my mother, she likes the 99-cent McDonald's coffee. She grew up, and so for her, so your price is based on value, not necessarily what your competitors do. Because when Starbucks started out, they they were totally different from McDonald's or other places that you got coffee.
hmm hmm yeah, I'm trying to look back at when Starbucks started, and did they have to fight that or not? It seems like it sort of.
They did not grow as a company until the 80s when they had a new CEO. I used to do a case study on them, but of course my names and things are a little rusty when I haven't looked up that material, but it's very interesting. That CEO grew Starbucks immensely with this new concept, place.
Or value to come for that matter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So is that how you have your clients look at their own value? What are
It
you?
is. It's like, what is the value you bring to the table? If you look at one of the things I was talking about when the Apple and Apple's of Apple products, and it's because of the values and their why. And so you've
Mhm.
got to have a really clear why about why people would purchase from you. It's not about the how and the what. That does not differentiate you. And honestly, nobody cares. I hate to say that, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
Simon Sinek gives this great talk called the Golden Circle on TED Talks. And
Mhm.
he goes through this whole concept about why and why your why is so important. So, I think Martin Luther King, he talks about his speech, I have a dream. That was a huge speech and an incredible why. And if it had been called something else, we wouldn't be here today talking about Martin Luther King. So, there are some great things I think when you need to know about your why.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what you're doing is going beyond the numbers. And I
Right.
think that's what people don't recognize sometimes with financial professionals in general, that
Mhm.
it's not just going to be a numbers conversation. And so you clearly have that
Yeah,
side.
because numbers affect every part of your business. I remember I worked for a business owner one time, and she's like, "Well, you're just the accounting department. You just go back here and do something that we don't understand." And I'm like, "No, numbers affect your business. How fast you can turn over your inventory affects your profitability. What are the costs it costs you to ship products affects your profitability. Your employees affect your profitability. It's not just their wages, but do you have high turnover? Are you paying a lot in training costs? There's all kinds of things that affect profitability. We call them cash drivers.
Cash drivers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, great. Yeah, and that's so important for people to understand that because like I just love what you said because people don't know what the accountant is doing and they
Mm-hmm.
don't give it enough value, in that area because you're bringing up all kinds of pieces to the puzzle that they need to know that they wouldn't know without
Mm-hmm.
somebody like you explaining it. And it really is crucial to understand. So,
And we talk in plain English. I think that's really important too.
mhm,
I it's funny. One of my clients is an IT company, and they start talking IT, and I look at them and I'm like, "Okay, English, please. I do English for you. English, please."
yeah, I love that. That's great. So let's just go back to profitability a little bit. When people don't aren't particularly profitable, and your example with your grandfather was really important because thinking about things like the future and Social Security and all of that, there's kind of that big push sometimes to feel good about having a loss because you save some money in taxes. But what are some of the other implications of that?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna tell you what your tax accountant won't tell you, and I am a tax accountant. Paying taxes is good.
Mhm,
Paying taxes means you have a profitable cash flow business,
mhm,
most likely.
mhm. Yeah.
Paying taxes means you're making money. That being said, we do tax planning because we do not want to give Uncle Sam any more than we have to give Uncle Sam.
Mhm.
But, if you're paying taxes, you're making money. If you're paying taxes, you can get financing from banks. If you're paying taxes, your business is a sellable business to somebody someday.
Mhm. Right. Yeah, very important because there is, and I know from our own tax accountant that there. This is the other interesting thing I think about finance people. Everybody kind of has their agenda in a way, and so
Mhm.
somebody like you can come in and see the bigger picture because your tax accountant is trying to save you taxes. That's the focus. And your, investment advisor is trying to do certain things, and everybody's kind of got their own aims. And so, do you come in and kind of take a look at all of that?
Yeah, so we ask what your goals are. So if you want to sell your company one day, you have to have a business that's paying taxes
Yeah. Yeah.
because nobody's going to buy you unless you're profitable.
Hmm.
So, but there's planning that can be done too. So, for example, I can't tell you how many times I've heard a business owner say, "Oh, my tax accountant told me to go out and buy a truck because I'm going to pay too much in taxes." And I'm like, "Did you need a truck?" Well, no, not really, but that's what they said to do so I could pay less in taxes. And my next question is, well, do you have a 401k or a SEP or a KO plan for your retirement? You know what they tell me 9 cents out of 10? No.
Hmm. Yeah.
That would be money well spent because you can deduct what you put into those and save for your future, and you got to keep the cash in your hands
I
instead
know.
of giving it to the car dealership. So,
Yeah.
different ways to look at things.
Yeah. I just had that conversation. And it's so funny that you bring that up because it was the exact thing. It was buying a truck versus putting money into retirement. So that's so funny to me. But yeah, it's a great example. And yeah, there's a lot to think about. And you do need people to talk these things through with. Um,
Right. And I am not begrudging your tax accountant. That is their job to save you
mhm,
taxes.
I
But
agree.
your job is to tell them what your goals are and does that make sense in your planning. So if you don't have somebody that understands your bigger picture plan, you may be making some bad decisions for your future.
Yeah, you're right about that. And it does fall on us to not go into those meetings thinking that this person isn't really interested in my bigger plan, because they
Right.
need that information. And I think we do that a lot too. It's like, here's
We,
my box of receipts, and you don't get into a bigger discussion about things.
right. It's funny because I had a friend one time say, "Well, how does it feel to tell people what to do?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? You get to tell business owners what to do." And I'm like, "I don't get to tell anybody what to do. I get to give them some advice and my opinion, and they run their own businesses and make their own decisions about what they're going to do."
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little about your earlier book, because that was great, talking about loving failure and getting control of your business health. Which, do you want to just elaborate a little on the idea of loving failure? Because that was such a great title.
I do. So, what are business owners scared of? Failing. I'm terrified of failing. I'm just like anybody else, I swear. And sometimes I make business decisions and I'm like this myself. I'm like, oh, is this going to work out or not? Right. So I think accepting the fact that we're going to fail, it's okay. Because if we're not failing, we're not making risk decisions that help keep our business successful. And, I love to give an example of the printing industry. Look at how it started out, and now everything's digitized. And, there used to be tons of people that did printing, right? And we don't see that anymore. There used to be tons of newspapers. We don't see that anymore. So making decisions based on technology and what's going on in your environment is really important because there's only one constant in life, and it's change.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So as an entrepreneur and running a successful company, we've got to be willing to make decisions about change. And some of them are going to work and some of them aren't. The ones that don't work teach us our greatest lessons and end up catapulting us 9 times out of 10 to the next level. Because
Yeah,
as human beings, we learn our best lessons from failures.
thank you. That is so true. And we have to allow that. You're right. We have to try things. And, because of the last couple of years, I've done some planning workshops recently, and people will say, well, what's the point of having a plan? Because everything changes and we can't predict anything anymore.
Oh, I love that question. It's one of my favorites. What do you say? I'm going to tell you what I say.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I still believe in planning, but I also believe in flexibility and adaptability and just going, to me, it's more of a mindset kind of issue than anything else. But what do you say?
If you don't plan it, you can't get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you don't have that goal in writing, I mean, how much research has there been done, right? That goal in writing, that big picture in front of your face, like where are you going and where do you want to get to? It's so important because you can't get there without it. Because you
Right.
get sucked right back into the day to day, right? And you forget to look at that big picture.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you do the plan and things do change in the world or in your life or whatever, then your concept of loving failure comes in, because, it's not
You
really
just revamp the plan.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And yeah, we've all heard, throughout the years that the only sure thing is that there'll be change. And I had the head of Google's strategy and innovation on, and he said something similar but a little different, which is, just to assume from now on that things are just going to be disrupted. Like, it's just going to keep happening. We're in an age where that's just the way it is. And so,
Well, if you think how much technology has changed in the last 10 years,
yeah.
just think of what your cell phone was in 2010 versus
Mm-hmm.
what your cell phone looks like in 2022. I know that's 12 years. I can do math, but if you look at what that technology is going to change at even a quicker pace as things go on. So, it's going to be very interesting to see how we use AI to help us do things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people are changing. I mean, I look at my kids in their early 20s and they're a whole different breed. So, people's, like you were talking about, people's goals. Well, there's a whole new generation with a whole different set of goals as well. and probably working till 65 and then retiring are, that's not so much the goal anymore either. And so, yeah, it's an interesting world. And I think having that mindset around all of it, around, your numbers are interesting, your your financials are interesting, the world is interesting. I think we need to go into it with that kind of idea.
Well, I think it's really important you brought up the generation because they want to see business differently. They want a whole world view of your business. They want to know what impact your business has on society. What are you doing to contribute to your community? And I like their approach. I really do. I love this generation coming up behind us.
Yeah.
I just think they got it. They're getting it right. What we tried to do, that balance we talked about constantly, it's more like this, right?
Yeah.
The merger. And I
Mm-hmm.
think they're really working on how does that look for them. It's been very interesting working with 20 somethings in my company. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I love that. I enjoy them too. And I think they actually have a pretty good handle on the numbers. Like, I don't see them running away from it. I see them actually saving and investing, especially with the crypto craze. It kind of got everybody interested
Well,
in.
investing looks different, right?
Looks very different, but hey, at least they're recognizing that whole
Mm-hmm.
concept of, money growing in unique ways. um, so, okay, back to your business owners and how you're helping people. What do you find when people perhaps are in a situation where their sales could be better, their cash flow could be better, but they need to grow and they want to scale and they need to hire?
So that's a great question. So what we do is we look at what are their current banking relationships. Do they have a line of credit? Is there some of their debt that can be made a term loan? Are they eligible for an SBA loan? Are there other financing options that we can go out and look at for them that aren't traditional banks to help them get the cash they need to grow? And
Mm-hmm.
then we help them figure out what the return on investment is going to be. So we don't just go out and say, okay, here's a big lug of money with no plan. We've got a plan behind that. When is it going to pay back? And if the payback's working, great. And if it's not, what are we going to do to adjust our plan to make sure that we can make things happen?
Nice. Yeah. So how often would you meet with people just to have these conversations?
We recommend at least once a month you're sitting down to meet with people. And then we recommend a business owner once a year gets together all their advisors. So much easier with Zoom, right? Because it doesn't have to be in person. But
Yeah.
what's really cool about that yearly meeting is we check in with the owner, make sure everybody's still on pace with what the goals are. And we typically would have their tax accountant there, their personal wealth manager, maybe their business attorney. So, and then we sit at the table and we make sure that we're talking about what goals they have for the year and how can we help them get there. Think about the time that saves you as a business owner instead of going back and forth like your CPA said one thing and my CFO said another thing and now my lawyer's got a different opinion. If you can get them all together for an hour in a meeting and have that conversation, it can be very impactful because these people have your best interests at heart.
I love that. I love that because I do find that they don't talk to each other typically, and then you get to tax season or whatever, and then those conversations really need to happen, and oftentimes they just don't. So that's a really great suggestion.
Yep.
Yeah. So okay, so there's some key things here. Pricing is a big one. Focusing on sales. I know that you've been scaling your own business. What have you run into personally that has either been challenging or successful?
I think, mistakes. You've got to allow your employees to make mistakes.
Mm.
We had one happen last Friday at my company, and how you handle those mistakes with your employees will judge how they'll handle things in the future for you. So I think investing in your employees, allowing them the capacity to make their own decisions and their own mistakes, and then helping them learn from those so you can put a process or procedure in place that prevents it going forward. That's the only way to scale. And coming from a control freak, because I am a control freak, this has been quite a journey for me, allowing other people to make their decisions and do those things so we can grow and expand. So, if you're a company that's got 35 and 40 employees and every decision's still going through you, you're stagnating your growth if that's
Mhm.
where you want to be. So, appointing managers and lead people to free up your time to do the things you need to do, big picture vision to grow the company is really important. It's not just about the day to day.
Yeah, yeah. So how do you take time to kind of step away and be
So
the
normally
CEO?
Friday afternoons, I spend 2 to 3 hours working on my vision and my business at a really high level.
Nice.
And I like Friday afternoons because, I've had all week and I might have an adult beverage while I'm working on my big picture vision
Yeah, that's
to
perfect.
celebrate what I accomplished for the week. But it's my time to unwind it and think about what happened for the week and what I want to do different to get to my big picture goal.
Mm, love that. And I love the fact that you said celebrate, because so often we just agonize over what the problems are and we don't stop and actually take in the successes we're having, which is so important.
So that's one of the things I do with my business owners at the end of the year. We celebrate the wins. We all know what the losses were, right?
Yeah,
We concentrate on those as human beings, but we talk about the wins. What were the wins for the year?
that's beautiful. Yeah. Is there a particular type of business owner that you focus on or that you work with mostly?
So we work mostly with business owners for CFO services of any size. We just got a new program in where they can use us on an as needed basis, which
Mm,
has really helped us be able to help other small businesses. Typically, a business 500,000 or more. We might be doing back office accounting work for them, and then I step in once in a while to do a review for them, and that's very affordable.
yeah.
And then we have full CFO services where we're a fractional CFO for larger companies on a monthly basis.
Yeah. And a fractional CFO, for people who don't know what that is you
So
stepping.
that,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, stepping in as a CFO at, much smaller price point than it is to hire a full-time CFO. Full-time CFOs in the Midwest are 130 to 150. If you're on the East or West Coast, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I think people aren't necessarily aware all the time that A, they might need a CFO. I mean, when
Right.
does that happen? Like, when do you go from bringing your business up and having a bookkeeper and a tax accountant to actually feeling like you need a CFO?
If you want to grow your business, you need a CFO in there to look at your numbers and help you get financing and other things that you need in your toolbox to make sure you have enough cash and how to use that cash wisely to grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think it's really important because people kind of get to that juncture, but might not know that they're there and that the CFO could really help them to make
Well,
decisions.
and if you're sitting on this call and saying, well, I want to be debt free, I have a client that'll tell you right before the pandemic, they did a big move. They always wanted to be debt free, didn't have loans. They had a $300,000 spend, and I go, look, I know you're risk adverse, but let's reach out to a couple banks, see what we can do for your cash flow. I said, this is a lot of money to be spending.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They reached out, they got a great rate, they got great monthly payments, they signed the docs. We went, renegotiated their line of credit, and in March of 2020, the whole world shut down.
Mm.
And if they had not made that move, in spite of PPPs and everything else going on, it could have been another story for that business.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing timing.
Right.
What are some other sort of client stories or case studies that you'd like to share just to show?
Well, I think lines of credit, I tell stories about them all the time because people do not understand the importance of a line. A line of credit, if you don't know, is meant to be a short term loan. It could be as little as a couple of days that you pay back to the bank. It's not meant to like finance equipment. It's working capital that you need until you're getting paid from customers. That's how I tell people to look at it. And those are really important. I had a retailer that had a really big client. They were so excited about them, got all the paperwork together. I saw how much the purchase order was going to be to this client. They had like a teeny weeny line of credit. I think it was $40,000. And I said, well, we need to go to the bank and get 250K on a line. And they're like, what? And I said, we need to go get a line. What if something happens and you don't get paid on this? I said, you get a lot of inventory outlay. So we got the line done in 3 weeks. They ship out the merchandise. They get paid for 6 months because there was a problem with this big client. If they hadn't had that line, it would have been a different story. And so lines are really important. Think about it as your company credit card that you need for emergencies. If that helps you think about it better. We spend a lot of time making sure what people's cash flow looks like so they have enough money to run their business. The number one reason businesses fail is not enough cash.
Not enough cash. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and nowhere to go for that money at some point. Yeah.
Right. And just because your bank told you no doesn't mean another bank won't say yes. Banks are just like doctors. They have specialties. So, you're not going to go to your heart doctor for a gastric bypass. So, you've got to go to the right bank for your business to get what you need.
And how do you determine that? What would?
So banks will tell you what kind of loans they're interested in. If you go to the banker and they say they do everything, go to the next bank because they don't.
Yeah, interesting. So you're talking industry specific, like some people.
Yeah, banks will go industry specific. They'll like certain verticals. They'll like certain sizes of loans. So, a lot of times your local bank might offer you great rates on checking and savings accounts, but they're so conservative you can't get a line from them.
Yeah. Because they're small.
And banks are risk adverse, Michelle. They want to know you can pay back the money. They're not going to give you the money when you need it. You got to go get the money when you don't need it.
Yeah.
Because they've got to know you're cash flow positive to pay them back.
Yeah. Boy, you're making me think. Yeah. Really, really good. That is seriously important. And again, if you have not been so profitable, can you go and get a line of credit? Is that?
You can't. They're much higher, and a lot of times the paybacks will be monthly or weekly. So they're different. They're different types of lenders, but depending on your situation, that may be right for your business. You could also get factoring, which works for many businesses. Factoring gets a bad name, but there are good factoring companies out there with good factoring practices, and that could be very good for a business also.
Would you explain that a little bit for people who don't know?
So factoring, what they do is they actually buy your receivables. I'm going to talk about it at a really high level here. They buy your receivables at a discount, right? You pay them a fee for that, so about anywhere from 10 to 15%, depending on your credit. And you might be like, well, why would I do that? Well, if you can't get credit anywhere else and you've got some big deals coming through, that might be a way to finance the inventory or other things that you need to do.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So there are ways to access cash. Yeah.
There are.
And I love what you said about if one banker turns you down, go to
the next one.
Yeah. Like book publishing. Yeah, exactly.
That's correct. Go to the next one.
Okay. So what are some other just general tips you'd like to throw out there?
Yeah. So, one of the things, you talk price increase and businesses are like, I can't do that. No, I lose all my clients. Right. So do it with the new clients. You don't have to do it with the old clients. Get the price right with the new clients because every new piece of business you add is profitable. Right.
Yeah. That's a great tip too.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about like my rate when I first started, I'm not going to share my rate on here, but my rate when I first started, I thought it was huge. I was like, nobody's going to pay that. That value discussion, right? I had to get the value right in my head.
Yeah.
Now my rate is 2.5 times what I started out with.
Yeah.
And I don't have any problem talking about it because I know the value I provide. But do you think the clients I started with 5 years ago pay that rate? No.
Yeah. Okay.
No, they don't pay that rate, but my new ones do.
Right. I like that approach as well. I mean, when somebody's been with you a long time and, I don't think there is.
I give them incremental increases. Don't think they've never gotten an increase, but I'm not going to jump them to what my new rate is.
Right.
And I think they deserve that because they came along with me for the ride, right? They got my business started.
Right. And I think people get conflicted about that when they do raise their prices in general. It gets a little confusing, old people, new people. But, and how do you communicate with them when you do have these incremental.
Oh, we sit down and talk about it, So, my labor costs go up every year. My employees want raises. Can you believe it, Michelle? And I'm a labor intense business.
Yeah, especially today.
Yeah. So, we just talk about what does that increase look like for the year and why.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never had anybody push back.
Yeah.
They might ask questions, which questions are good. Those are buying signals, folks. You just need to be able to explain them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And if they decide to move on, then they probably weren't a good client for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. That's something that
as long as you're not doing a crazy 20% increase, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, right.
Right. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. And so, what's next going forward for you? What do you suggest for business owners going forward into, the new year?
Well, one of the things I tell business owners is it's never too late to do your plan. So we do what's called a 12-month roll. So people would be like, well, I can't do it this year. I already got a quarter gone. So what?
Yeah.
Keep looking 12 months out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All that means is that time period's done. What's the new thing that you want to get done or that you want to accomplish? So we encourage people to look at a minimum of 12 months out. And then, what's that big 3-5-year goal? And reevaluate it every year because what did we talk about? Change, right? That goal is going to change over time.
Right, right. Yeah, so you still suggest a longer term plan as well.
I do. But, that short-term look is a great place to start.
Yeah.
12 months is a really good way to start looking at your business. What does it look like 12 months from now?
I love the rolling 12 months because we do get hung up on, oh my God, I've lost a quarter. Almost, we're almost there now. So yeah.
No, that quarter's just done. Let's start with the new one.
Right, right. Yeah, I love that. So, so any sort of predictions about this year in terms of just how it's looking out there economically?
I think economically, we're seeing price increases, right? There's going to be inflation. We know it's challenging to get employees. Be flexible. Don't be stuck in your ways. So, I've got staff that works remotely. We come in and work a couple days a week. We have a 4-day work week. So I have different staff members that work at different times. Look at what you wanted when you were working for a company, and do you supply those benefits to your employees? And is there a way to incorporate them? Because, loyal employees can really do a lot to generate income for your business, have a good work-life environment for yourself and your employees, and just spread joy in the world.
Boy, I really love that idea of looking back, because I could look back on my corporate life and think about what I would do or not do and what I needed at that time. Yeah,
as a C-suite executive growing up in the 80s, there was not a lot of flexibility for women.
Yeah.
And my favorite story to tell is I was a CFO at a company about 15 years ago, and my son was really young. And so I would take work home every night because if you have a young child, they wake up with a fever in the morning and all of a sudden you got to stay home, and I have responsibilities at work, right? So he gotten sick a couple times in a row, and my boss came up to me and he goes, do you have a crystal ball? And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? How do you always able to tell me that you can do work when your son is sick? Do you plan this? I lost it. I looked at him and I go, seriously, is this what you spent your day wasting thinking about yesterday? I go, I'm a C-suite executive with responsibilities. I take work home every night because I don't know how my kid's going to wake up in the morning. He goes to school with a bunch of little munchkins.
Oh, I love it. That is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was funny. Do you have a crystal ball? No, if I had a crystal ball, I would know which nights I need to take homework, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Good preparation though. That's a good example right there.
He laughs about it now. He goes, I've never seen you get so mad. I said, I was so mad.
Well, you're really showing how, I think, how, well, A, you're brilliant, and I think you're showing how enjoyable it could be to have a really good financial person working with you, because not only do you know what you're doing and you can obviously help people a great deal, but you're fun. And I would think that people would enjoy having you as one of their partners in their business. And I think that's something to remind people of, that, yeah, you're finance people. I mean, I worked with finance people, and I was actually surprised at how just fun those people were, and what great personalities, and how much smarts were in the room. And I just loved it. I remember it was a bias on my end to be like surprised that all the finance and accounting people were so great.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because people are like, well, you're not a typical accountant. I'm like, I don't know what a typical accountant is. What's a typical accountant?
Yeah, so I think it's a good reminder for people to know that you need somebody like you on your team.
You do need somebody that's got your back on your team, and we're a trusted advisor to a lot of businesses, and that's a really important responsibility to have.
Right.
So,
well, and I'm sure you're working remotely with clients at this point, as well as your team. So how can people get a hold of you? How can they talk to you more about their businesses?
yeah, so you can call us at 314-476-4200, and you can text us there if you hate to talk to people. It's not a problem, either one. Or you can send us an email at info@acumaxum.com, and Acumaxum is ACUMAXUM.
Yeah.
So,
and people can just have a conversation, I would imagine, to see.
yeah, we just have a conversation. We're not salespeople. We're not here to tell you how to run your business or what's right or what's wrong for you. We're here to listen to what your goals are and see if they align and it's something we can help you with. We don't help everybody.
Right.
Not everybody's our cup of tea.
Right. Well, Debi, thank you so much for being here. You are just a terrific guest. You're full of great information, and I love talking about financial activities with you, because I learn something every time, and I'm sure the listeners have learned a lot. And yeah, I just wish everybody could work with you, because I know that their businesses would be vastly improved. So
well, thank you so much for having me, Michelle. It is so much fun to get to talk back and forth. I just love your energy, and I love what you do for people, and it's an honor to be on your show.
thank you. Thank you so much. And listeners, check out this show. Listen to it a couple of times, because there's a lot of great information in here, and share it with your friends, and think about some of this stuff for your business. I know you're busy, but there are so many great tips, including Friday afternoons with an adult beverage, looking at your business. That was a great one. Lots of them. So you can tune in to ubngo.com and watch this show and listen to it. You can also find it on all the podcast platforms, as well as the Limit Free Life YouTube channel and Facebook page. So we're easy to find out there. We would love reviews and more subscribers. So please, that we've had great guests on this year, including Debi here today. So we'd love to continue that, and your help would be much appreciated. So with that, see you next week.
Bye, Michelle.